We're pretty much around the corner on the cusp of 6.0, right? And essentially, the more I think about how, the optimization of the game is starting to be changed and, that big move to kind of not have PlayStation 4 support for the game anymore, it makes me wonder what possibly could they implement into the game that could, make this change something that they needed to do. And there's obviously a lot of things that could very much be the case. But I thought it would be fun if I just sat down real quick or stand up, because that's usually how all my recordings is. I stand, I don't have a chair. But when it comes down to it though, I was thinking, why not just list off things that I would like to see within the 6.0 era and beyond, right? It doesn't have to be 6.0 specifically, but 6.0 era and beyond. Like what could happen in the future, right? And I have like maybe 5 different ideas, maybe 5 that I could think of that would be really cool. And ideas that may not have been said for, how a lot of people been asking for, like, oh, we want a skip button and replayable events and, other stuff like that. Like, we know that stuff people have asked. What about other things that people maybe have not said or haven't really said a whole bunch about? That's kind of what I want to focus on today. But just to list off a few things that people have said that they wanted. They said they wanted a skip button for cutscenes, and that's perfectly understandable. If you don't understand the lore and you just want to skip ahead, then by all means do so. Much less if you play in the game again and you want to skip one for that. But again, by all means do so. That's just what it is. Old events replayed. Honestly, if they do old events, I wouldn't be too mad if they just said, here's the story for that event and not any of the bonus primogens for like the mini games and stuff like that. I would very much understand that, but at the very same time, give us at least the quest line and just straight up do what basically do what they said they were planning to do with the whole added part with Natland with this damn patch, right? With the keeping the whole event quest still there. So keep that a thing, and after that, you do whatever the hell you want to. That's perfectly fine. Artifact loadouts, that's something that people been asking for, in like a boost into resin. I would say like maybe the boost it to 240, so it can be on par with at least the bare minimum of what a gacha game should have. So that would be fine. But ultimately, something like that will be things people have already asked for and pretty much said. So what am I asking for? What am I looking for when it comes down to it? Number one, I would like to see things about the user generated content that they talked about in the past. Now, I'm not going to say much of anything because I think I did see, unfortunately, leaks of what they have planned for it, and if it's true, that's kind of cool, and only one other gacha game I've seen has done such a thing. When it comes down to it, if that is what they're going to implement, that's honestly the most fun idea I think they could possibly really do. I don't know how that would fit into the world of the game, but somehow it just might be the case. But still, I do think we might see user generated content, maybe, hopefully soon, and 6.0 will be the perfect time to do it. But we'll see what that ends up ultimately being when it comes down to it, right? We'll definitely see, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm not saying what it is. I've seen it, it is out there, but definitely, if that is the case, that is a really cool thing they can implement. I just hope that there's a lot of options with it. That's all I'm gonna say. So user generated content, we'll like to see what they can let people cook up when it comes down to that. Then number 2, honestly, I'm never gonna let this go until it happens, and that is a actual genuine collaboration with an anime or a game that give us a character from said anime or game, right? I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I am so sick of us just having Aloy, and we only had Aloy because of the PlayStation deal. Y'all couldn't give us any other cool character. Yeah, you had to give us Aloy. I feel like that was a bit of a weak ass pull. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. So when it comes down to it, I would very much like to see Genshin get another collab character that's actually something that people care about and that is really good, right? Can we have that, please? Because high key, that's like the big thing. That was like the very big thing when it came down to, with all these collaborations. We get to see all these people with, with Fate and with Cyberpunk and all this other stuff. But you mean Genshin can't get a collab? That is still one thing I very much need to see. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as it's somebody that we pretty much know and it's not something that's super lame. I'll be fine if it was Persona, I'll be fine if it's Final Fantasy, I'll be fine if it was literally some random anime that, you know, people are very much hyped up for. That's perfectly fine. As long as it's an anime that people very much have an idea of what it is, that is well known, that's perfectly fine. Just hand us something when it comes down to it, because at the end of the day, I don't want Genshin's only collab character to be Aloy from Trash Ass Horizon, and that's about it, right? No one uses the character. Literally give us something else to be happy for. That is literally how I feel about that. You know, for the third one, I probably would say for quality of life, if possible, and if they could do this, which I don't see why they couldn't, but it would still take time for them to do it, which would be like the AI lip syncing thing. Like, because if you look at other Hoyoverse games, they have that already for Star Rail, for ZZZ especially. So it's kind of weird that Genshin is like the only game that doesn't have the audio to match up with the character's whole mouth. So that would be something I would very much like to see. Again, it's not anything like ultra major that bothers me anymore or anything like that, but it's something that it will be like, hey, this is your top selling game and you should give it that top selling sort of like feel to it, right? To actually make it feel like it's worth something instead of just, you know, we put this together, enjoy, take what we give you, because that's sometimes what it feels like. Number 4 would definitely be a game changer if they were to implement this correctly, and that's something that Wuthering Waves has, which is an advancement to their wind glider system. Right? Wuthering Waves lets you fly around and set the mods and Renacita and you know, do all the flying stuff that you really want to with a generous stamina timer. I would like to see Genshin add something like that. You have a story reason as to how you can improve that. Let Ino maybe fix up a way to, you know, implement a wind glider that actually lets you fly around the map with that. You can absolutely do that. You've already basically threw out the idea with Enefa doing that in her little antidote stuff, and you basically threw out the idea of that with the Flower Feather clan, with Chaska's whole story quest. So again, a glider that lets you fly around would not be a bad idea. It's not something that it's out of the realm of possibilities for Genshin, and since we're going to a nation that is literally going to be having more technological advancements when it comes down to it, a flying around mechanic of a wind glider would not necessarily be a bad move. Just give it a generous stamina timer, give people, you know, the ability to go however they want to go, let the dashing not suck. Just do not let the dashing of the wind glider suck, and essentially you have something very good. And it won't even break the game, honestly. I'm pretty certain if you implement something like that, it will not break the game. You can still use the old wind glider to descend slowly and stuff like that. That's perfectly fine. You can still very much have that to be a thing. It's not going to break the game if you give everybody a universal wind glider, and it should be a universal wind glider that lets you fly across to that however you damn well please. Because high key, it's really kind of annoying sometimes to just be climbing up stuff trying to, you know, gauge out how much stamina you have and try to plan things out when you just want to go. Like, we're not going to have wall running. The best you give us is definitely a flying wind glider. I'm pretty sure no one would complain about that. And at the very same time, again, it's not breaking your game if you implement the, you know, the system in correctly. And the last thing I personally would like to see is traveler customization. Now, I know people have very much complained for a long time that Traveler does not change their clothes and stuff like that, and it's very annoying when you see other games basically let small little customization details kind of go in. I'm not saying Traveler needs to switch out their entire outfit. I'm not saying that's what they need to do, but granted, a lot of people like to see that, but it's not necessarily something that they're going to really ever fully do because of story reasons, and you know, that's just how it is. However, I would very much like to see like the headpieces of things that Traveler has worn over the years to be something that we can, toss onto the character and whatever. That will be fun. Like that damn Fatui mask she had that one time. That would be fun to see, just Traveler walk around in that just because. It doesn't have to change anything, just let them have the outfit on, right? Very much you could do something with the outfit that they currently have. Change the colors of it so every Traveler could be like a different color and, have like unique things to change about them to make each Traveler a bit different, so you have something like that. Things like that would very much be small but also could help in the long run. Hell, take the damn Natlan swimwear outfit that they had, give them that would be also perfectly fine to have for them, right? If they can't swap out outfits in terms of like, their main Traveler outfit, give them the swimwear outfit. Bell and Wise and ZZZ is able to have that, so I don't see why Lamine or like, Ether can't have their own versions of that from the Natlan quest. It's a cool idea. Let Paimon have her own damn outfit when it comes down to it too, right? It's a cool idea. You can still always take it off when you're going into like cutscenes or whatever. That's perfectly fine. But ultimately, just let the Traveler have their shit. Let them have something that is literally something that is like super small and not necessarily like the biggest and necessary thing on the planet for me. But at the end of the day, it's something that you could at least let players kind of have, right? Because if we can't change out their outfits, at least change certain stuff about their appearance that can be changed. That would be fine to change overall. Because ultimately, not having that really does suck. Especially for a game that's, again, your biggest seller. To not have that sort of feature, it's kind of high-key a bit of trash. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Now, ultimately, there is always going to be bigger changes to the game that obviously people can think of way more important than what I've listed. But ultimately, I wanted to list things that are a bit more different. Things that people haven't really talked much about or at all I haven't seen anybody talk about whatsoever, right? Because ultimately, again, the game can just implement certain stuff and that'd be enough for certain people. And certain people could very much like the bigger and better, like, changes to the game that will be enough for them. I just listed some things for me that would be, kind of like the cool shit for me to really enjoy the game a bit more, right? And there's stuff that's obviously out there that I could very much say too, like more PvP sort of content that actually is like kind of what we get in the events sometimes too. I did like the whole ass event where everybody has to choose a very specific element with specific characters and everybody kind of just choose whatever the hell they want to because they think clear the content that way, because they absolutely don't. I actually find that really fun because everybody was basically walking around very stupidly. But still, there's lots of content that you can very much add to this game. This game isn't just a one-trick pony. You can add stuff to it. It's just whether or not the devs are going to do so, who really knows. But hopefully in 6.0 we'll get to see a game shake and change of how things is done, and hopefully within the 6.0 life cycle things will just be a bit more crazier than we ever have seen before, right? Something that Genshin has never really done, hopefully will be just the big mantra of what 6.0 will provide in the future of how the game is going to be played. But that is really all I got to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also follow me on the socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, this is Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.